7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Welcome back into another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. It is time for NFL Week 9 picks. It is the Week 9 show here for the Vegas Squares. Myself, Aaron, and Spike are in studio. Both of the tokens and fake tokens are AWOL with us. Actually, I think fake token's still on the East Coast. He sent me a text. Spike, have you ever been to the Southeast?
I went to Florida, like Orlando, once for a conference for work about 5 years ago, and then once in high school for like Disney World and all that shit.
Yeah, the usual.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I always talk about with Token and anybody who will listen that the chain of public supermarkets in the Southeast, mostly in Florida, are the best I have ever had as far as supermarkets in anywhere I've ever lived or been. Because of the fact that they are also like double as like a restaurant that has some of the most delicious food that I've ever had. Publix subs, their wings, their tenders.
Yeah, I had a Publix in when the wife and I were on the cross-country road trip last year. We stopped at a Publix in like Nashville or something, and we got subs, and they were phenomenal.
They're the best subs I ever had.
They're so good.
Oh, yeah. And so I get a text randomly out of the blue from Fake Token because he's in, I believe, Sarasota. And he goes, dude, these Publixes, ... fucking awesome. And I'm like, dude, anyone who's willing to listen, I'm telling you, these things rock. So if you're a pub sub fan, or if you're listening to the show and, you know, tweet us, hashtag pub subs or whatever, because we want to know that at least someone's listening. We'll get no tweets, but actually our only listeners in Sarasota right now telling me that pub subs are awesome.
There we go.
Anyways, once again, it's the Vegas Squares. This is our Week 9 NFL show. Spike and myself are in studio. Token Tony and Fake Tony are AWOL today, but they gave us our picks. I assume their picks are in, correct?
Yeah, I got them locked in here. I don't think they're very good, but I got them.
Well, that's a whole
in.
other story. we always seem like in the beginning of the week we've got great picks, but all right, let's thank the sponsors here before we get into it. 12 Ounce Sports airing us every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I think that might change. We're probably just going to go to Sunday podcasts for the rest of the NFL season. For right now. Also, Seat Giant, promo code 12-ounce sports, discounts on sporting events, concerts, and theater tickets. All right, so now that that's out of the way, if you want to sponsor us, shoot us an email at vegassquares@gmail.com or tweet us /DM us at vegassquares. All right, Spike, so let's take a look at the standings because we are halfway through the season.
Yes.
And the standings are kind of all over the board.
Yeah, they're a little wonky. They're a little out there. We'll start with the 7-gamer since that's the bigger one, the one for more money right now.
Okay.
Currently in last place are the Random Dice, as it should be. I mean, we would hope that we could beat the Random Dice on such a consistent basis that they would be in last place.
What is the expected value for Random Dice if you were to just be a sports bettor who just... I mean, I assume... it's got to be theoretically low because you have 5 options versus just
I was just going to say that. Yeah. I was just going to say that you're not exactly a coin flip, so with that 5th option, it's screwing it up. And they actually have 2 dog money lines this week. So I think that's going to skew it a little bit. I would say they should be hitting at about 45%. They're currently sitting
I didn't
at...
think that was high, yeah.
They're currently sitting at 23 points, an overall record of 23-33. So they're... low. I mean, it's on the low side. Currently sitting, of the real people, currently sitting in last place is Token Tony. 26 points. Worse overall record than the Dice, I should point out. But he has
some bonus.
He has banked a few bonus points. Currently sitting at 19-37 overall.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
No, it is not.
You, me, and Fake Token are all kind of jumbled towards the top. Fake Token sitting at 35 points with a record of 26-30. You and I are actually tied at 37 points apiece. But I have the better overall record right now because you've hit more of the bonus points. You're at 26-30 right now. I'm the only person in this entire contest above 500, sitting at 20.
Pounds his chest.
Sitting at 29-27.
Yeah, get all the phlegm out.
Yes, so that's
you're gonna yuck it up this week.
Yeah, no, I might, and I am on 0 money lines this week, so you've got a chance to even pick up a bonus point on me here.
Sweet. I know I have one bonus point available money line.
Yeah.
Going. We'll get into that. The reason I want to bring up the halfway point is because now you start looking at week 9 and beyond. You've got teams who likely have given up. I won't name names. And you have teams that are on the fence, especially, in that, 4-4 range, 3-5 range, 5-3 range. They probably have about 2 more weeks to really determine the fate of their season. And also, you've got a lot of injuries. I mean, obviously, we know Jacksonville has been without Nick Foles for a while, but then he comes back in the fold, so they might become a new team. No pun intended with the fold. But Case Keenum's out against a huge defense in Buffalo. Are we going to see Colt McCoy? Are we going to see Dwayne Haskins? Cam Newton's been out for a while. There's always the talk of him. Pat Mahomes, what are we going to do? When's he coming back? We got some of the teams that are in good shape are coming up on byes in the next couple of weeks. Seattle and Minnesota. So you're kind of looking at the spot where, in my opinion, the last 8 weeks of the season, not only with what's going on the field, but what's going on in the sports books, the last 8 weeks of the season are so much harder, in my opinion, than the first 8 weeks.
Yeah, and I think part of that, too, is the first 8 weeks, there's so many expectations on certain teams, and now we got trades that have gone through, too. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders has brought the offense to life in the aerial a game, like we saw Thursday against the Arizona Cardinals. Oh, sure. But, I'm thinking of teams like Cleveland, where they were coming in, they were the sexy pick to win the AFC North. Some people had them running deep in the playoffs all the way to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And now that we've seen the reality, they're sitting at 2-5. Kitchens is probably on the hot seat. People are way down on Baker Mayfield, the way he's been throwing the ball away.
And walking out on reporters. People are comparing him to Ryan Leaf at this point. I saw that on Twitter.
Yeah.
I saw the Ryan Leaf. Maybe it was something you were interacting with, but I saw something about comparing him to Ryan Leaf, and I'm like, wow, we're already there.
Yeah, and I mean, but what has he done to prove otherwise? Because he's not winning games, he's throwing bad interceptions, he's making bad decisions, and he's got a shitty attitude about it.
Yeah, on every media outlet that I saw that video of Baker ripping that reporter. Now, from the comments, what I've heard, apparently that reporter is a huge needler, which. Okay, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, and I said this, I pretty much made comments on every media video that I saw regarding that exchange, and I said, remember, Baker wanted all the smoke. That's exactly his words. He said, we want all the smoke. Well, this is part of the smoke.
Yep. And he's got to learn to deal with that, especially as a professional.
And I think he's kind of a microcosm for this whole society of players. They want to talk shit. Cam Newton's another one. They want to talk shit when things are going well. They want to run their mouth, but then the minute somebody faces adversity and somebody calls them out on it, they're like, boo freaking who.
Right. I mean, this...
You take it on the chin, man.
Yeah, and you got to learn to deal with it in some...
Especially if you're a quarterback.
Oh, yeah, especially, yeah. I mean, the quarterback has to be the face of the team. A, because they're probably the most important position in sports. B, because they're always going to be the leader of that team, whether they want to be or not.
Whether they like it or not.
Yeah, and, this is the kind of thing, like we saw when Andrew Luck suddenly retired shortly before the season. All of a sudden, the Colts, who went from surefire thing to win the AFC, all of a sudden all the pundits ran away from them.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, this is, Houston, maybe Jacksonville, even Tennessee, because the division was up for grabs. Guess what? It's still the Colts because Jacoby Brissett is that good. And nobody's talking about how good Jacoby Brissett has been.
Quiet leader.
That defense has been phenomenal, but you're exactly right. Jacoby Brissett is not the Baker Mayfield. He's not snapping at reporters. He's not walking out. He's not having the bravado and the swagger and all this shit. He's going out there. He's doing his job. He is, even though he's on the Colts, he still has the Patriots mentality of you don't need to thump your chest to get attention. You have to win games to get attention.
You prove it on the football field.
Yeah.
Yep. And Baker bites at every bit. So, but, I mean, you look at it. You got Jacoby, you got Brady, as you mentioned. You have Russell Wilson, these guys who are leaders who go about all the way down to a guy that many even believe. Many are, I mean, obviously comparing Baker to this guy is Lamar Jackson. Same guy, goes about his business. He may not be the sexiest quarterback as far as, pocket presence, all-around tools, but guy's winning games for his team.
Yeah, and I think winning is a very nice cologne, and it kind of gets rid of a lot of things because I like Lamar Jackson. I was big on him last year, especially.
Too big last year.
Yeah.
Your expectations tailored are more centered for this year.
Yeah, I should have been on him this year. He still does have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder with the hashtag not bad for a running back that he always puts out
fair.
there. Which, I get because he's kind of throwing it back in their faces, but he can, and that's the point.
Right. Success obviously breeds the ability, and you're right, he has thrown subtle digs, but so has Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah.
So is Tom Brady. And I know this is two different wavelengths, but, as much as we talk about the gold standard, which is TB12, he still throws his, not bad for a 40-something-year-old quarterback. I mean, he still throws his digs because, these guys are human. But I think part of the thing is his coaching. I mean, John Harbaugh's a class act. Pete Carroll's a class act. Bill Belichick's a class act, keeping these guys in check.
Yep.
Frank Reich knows how to keep. And I will say this. This might not come out for years, but I believe that Jacoby Brissett. I believe that Jacoby Ellsbury has no place in this podcast.
Wow. Is he even in sports anymore? I don't even know.
Last time I remember he was on the Yankees, and he got traded somewhere. He's got to be out of the league.
I'll look it up while you finish your thought.
But, and even Jacoby, where was I even going with this?
I have no idea.
Yeah, so I think this may not come out for a while, but Jacoby Brissett, I believe, knew, or at least had an inclination that Andrew Luck was retiring. Not in March or April, but maybe sometime in July.
It's possible because you have to assume that the quarterbacks talk. And I would think that something like that would have come, at least the thought of, hey, I'm thinking about...
I'm not sure if I can do this again or something like that.
Yeah, so I wouldn't doubt that.
And that may never come out, but I tend to believe that may... because we always hear about these things later on,
Sure, but, for a lot of the guys, the locker room is sacred. So even if it did happen, even if people ask directly, did you have this conversation? I'm not sure that we would ever find out about it because people wouldn't want to break that bond.
With the culture of leaking, and everybody wants to have the story. If it comes out, it won't be during the season.
Oh no, definitively not.
But if they somehow win a Super Bowl title, and they're talking about the story of this quarterback who no one counted on, but he knew in July that he was probably he was 75% taking over the job or something like that.
Yeah, so it's it's a great story. I've never been a big fan of the Colts, but I do like Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, it's hard not to like that guy.
Yeah, and to answer your question, Jacoby Ellsbury finished his career as a Yankee, hasn't been on an active roster in 2 seasons. 2 seasons.
That's figured out. I didn't know if he got traded as a piece that just to get rid of the contract, but
yeah.
I remember when he signed as a Yankee after 2010.
No, it was later than that. Wasn't it?
Was it after the World? Did he win the World Series in 2013?
Oh, maybe. Well, no, I just had the page up. I'll have to look it up again. I don't actually give enough of a shit.
Yeah, that's okay.
The one thing I did want to bring up, he was on the Sox through 2013. So he won the series with the Sox and then went on to the Yankees.
Fair enough.
The one thing that I did want to bring up is this idea of lineage nepotism. Because the report that came out this week is that there has been a Belichick calling the defensive play calls for the Patriots for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and it's Steve Belichick.
He's the new hot commodity on the coaching carousel rumors.
But here's the thing. Tom Brady's oldest son, Jack, will be eligible to be drafted in 8 years. Do you think Belichick sticks around for 8 more years to get his son Steve in a position to be, if not head coach of the New England Patriots?
Does the kid play football?
At least I think so, yeah.
Isn't he good? Are there any...
Jack Brady?
Yeah, I've heard nothing about him.
I mean, he's still 8 years away from being drafted, which means he's still in 8th grade right now. But
so he's probably...
Or 7th grade, yeah.
12 or 13 years old at minimum.
So... But think about how upset Jets, Bills, and Dolphins fans are going to be if they have another generation of Belichick and Brady.
Is upset the right word? Just heartbroken and
yes.
Just I would if I were them, I would play the the millennial route and try to apply for division realignment. I think that's the only thing you can do if it comes out that the offspring of Belichick and Brady become synonymous with each other for a second generation.
Bills beg to move to a central division.
Yeah, put me in the Canadian League. I don't care. Let me out. Let me out. All right, so let's start in London, because apparently we play London every week now.
Oh, yeah.
This game will be in action as this podcast airs. So we can talk about it a little bit. Does anyone have a pick on this game?
I believe, let me see. I thought somebody grabbed it, but now that I'm looking through, maybe not. It seems strange, too, because it's such a weird line on this game.
Yeah, well, I mean, Houston, they're so, I've said it before, they're such an up and down roller coaster of a team. They should be competitive with Indy in the sense of and maybe even better than Indy, because Deshaun Watson, I don't think anyone would argue that Deshaun Watson is not a better overall quarterback than Jacoby Brissett, not by leaps and bounds, but they also just lost J.J. Watt for the season as well. So
right,
and traded Clowney. So that line that was once very, very tough, that defensive line, has now lost its two bookends.
Has Watt ever played a full season? I'm
sure he has. He's won an MVP. Has he won an MVP? I know he won Defensive Player of the Year twice. So
right,
I would imagine he's put a full season in earlier in his career. But you're right. Yeah, he's definitely a 6 to 8 game kind of guy now, and he may, at least Bill O'Brien may want to start thinking about if he's still the coach next year, maybe keeping that guy in a rotation as a backup and replacing him, especially since you got rid of Clowney as well. So you didn't pay Clowney, you traded him off, and now your other guy on the other side is probably a rotational guy at best for the rest of his career.
Yeah. Oh no, he's 2016 he played 3 games, 17 he played 5 games. And this year he played 8 games. Every other year he's played a full season. So
18 he played a full season?
Yeah, so
last year he played a full season?
Yeah, 3 out of 7 or 8 seasons he's been hurt. But it better
in the beginning he was a menace.
Yeah, better ratio than I thought, we'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's a prisoner of the moment kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so, did anybody have any play on
No,
this?
nobody in our contest has a play on this one. It's surprising because with the line movement, it's opened at 3, dropped to 1.5, 1 in some places, 2 in others, depending on where you go. Mm-hmm. But 1.5 is the Westgate line, which is what we're using for our contest. You would think a movement of that significance would have enticed somebody to jump on one of these sides, but no, I don't see it here.
Yeah, I actually thought about Jacksonville, but the plus money is not worth it, and just in case, I don't really want to mess with it. So that being said, since nobody really has a play on this, we're going to try to play a little game of the game's in action right now. If you're listening to this on Sunday, but we're recording this on Saturday, so we're going to try to play a little game of Miss Cleo. What's going on right now?
All right. Oh, I don't even know. Based on when this is airing, I don't even know where in the game we would be at this point.
We air at 9 a.m. Eastern.
So 6 a.m.
So 6. So the game actually hasn't even started yet.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So that's perfect then.
Yeah, okay, good.
All right. So I thought maybe if we air at 9, I have trouble with the time zones.
How long have you lived out here?
Wait a second. We air at 9 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah, 9 a.m.
And the game starts at 9:30 Eastern. Yeah, so we're in pregame, baby.
Yeah, all right.
We're in pregame.
All right, so we're still previewing.
All right.
So my prediction is they haven't done the coin toss yet.
Yeah, I'll say tails. Tails never fails. So, yeah, regarding this game, I think Deshaun Watson and Houston, even without J.J. Watt, are the better team. You have weapons galore. I mean, yes, Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson aren't the greatest of running game specialists, but I mean he's got DeAndre Hopkins, and it seems he's relying on DeAndre Hopkins more with Will Fuller being out, which tells me 2 things. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers in the NFL, and he doesn't trust Kenny Stills to catch a ball within 20 yards. Kenny Stills is just the deep threat.
Yeah, and even as a I don't want to say decoy because that's not fair to Stills, but I mean that is primarily. If he's on the field and he's only running deep every time, then he's only, he's taking a corner and maybe some safety help too, and that gets them away from Hopkins, which is probably what you want if you're Deshaun Watson, and that's how you get guys free, is that you have that deep threat where
take the safety away.
Yeah, they have to cover that kind of thing. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Houston is the better team. I think we have to worry about Gardner Minshew with his mustache getting swept up in some British pride rally there because
the thing is the London, because Jacksonville has played there so much, London has kind of adopted Jacksonville as their team. So I'm wondering how much of a home game this may be for the Jags.
This is another conversation which we don't necessarily have to have now, but these London games, as well attended as they are, I've always wondered if they're actually true British people going to the games or if they're just Americans on vacation that traveled to see their team in London.
I'd say it's 60-40 Americans.
You think it's that many Brits, though? 40%?
That thing holds like 80,000 people. You think 75,000 people are going across the pond
Why not?
On a work week?
I mean, people can take time off.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I have a buddy who went to the London game just last week with the Rams and Bengals. He's a Bengals fan.
Oh,
and,
sorry.
He took whatever. That's his life decisions. But he took a bunch of pictures. It looked like a pretty good time. They actually squirted out to Ireland as well for a day, out to Dublin. So it looked like they had a pretty good time. So I'm curious. Yeah, I don't know who would have that information as far as like. I mean, obviously, I think maybe NFL Ticket Exchange may have of where the tickets were purchased or where the credit cards, the home address for the credit cards.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. That's a curious question. I think that I'll tell you what. I'll give you some homework for next week.
All
right. Check out and see because the thing is, they're not all at Wembley either. Like one of them, they played at the Tottenham's Stadium, and I think they played in Manchester for one game as well, where Man U plays. So it's not like they're all in Wembley. In the first couple seasons, they were all at Wembley, but I think they're kind of branching out a little bit. The question really is what's the end game? I mean, if the NFL does this for 10 years and really doesn't see an uptick in interest from the European countries, do they just shut it down? I mean, I know Roger Goodell has said, and even the Jaguars owner has said, if we can't get the support in Jacksonville, that they could actually look at London as a potential spot for a freaking NFL franchise.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and I know that...
I would say Toronto before London, but...
Well, I mean, Toronto...
The Bills almost went to Toronto.
San Antonio probably deserves a team. Oklahoma City could house a team. Portland, Oregon definitely could house one.
Vancouver, Canada. I'm saying if you're looking at North America in general, Mexico City, please, for the love of God, don't do it.
I'm a big fan of Mexico City getting either an NHL or NBA team. I don't think that stadium that they have for that would be that would be for the NFL would
NHL
work. They have, first of all, you got to remember Mexico City is like 8,000 feet above sea level, so it never gets above like 80 degrees up there.
I can respect that, but I'm just saying Mexico City is the interest there.
Well,
I may travel there for a game, but are the people who actually live there?
There's like 10 million people that live there. There's over 40 billionaires there, and they have a stadium that was built 4 years ago that can hold about 22,000 people.
I'm not saying the logistics don't work.
I mean,
the thing is, you still got to convince even 10 million people. Even if you have 1%, that's 100,000 people. So what are you talking? A 0.2%. Even if you get 0.2% people, you're selling out the arena. But
yeah, and that's the question is.
I don't want to be racist here, but do Mexicans like hockey?
I mean, we've
seen... I don't know if that's even racist, but you know what I mean.
No, it's probably a fair question because, aside from the Mexican Soccer League and, they have some baseball leagues down there too, they haven't... I don't think they have anything like that. Somebody did try to start a minor league hockey team down there, but I don't know how well it took off. Like, I don't know anything about it other than the jerseys were fucking amazing. But, for this kind of thing, if the NHL wanted to look at a city like that... I think the bigger question is going to be the travel time because Mexico City is pretty far south within Mexico.
Yeah, it's where it starts to kind of bend.
Yeah, so you're talking like long plane rides for these teams that are traveling down there that may, this isn't like baseball where you're playing 3 or 4 games at a stretch in the single
you can
stadium.
make a weekend out of it.
Yeah. So it's a little bit strange. It would... That sort of logistical nightmare is probably worse than trying to get people in the stadium because I think people would go to those games without question. Like I'm not worried about anything.
We also have to look at the exchange rate. I mean, pesos. We just went to Cozumel and pesos. The exchange rate was 22 to 1.
Oof.
So how much would hockey tickets really be down there? I mean, you can't make them too expensive, otherwise the Mexican population probably couldn't afford to go there. But I get the billionaires whole thing, and I know it's, but billionaires are there's 40 people.
Yeah, no,
you got to fill a 22,000 seat arena. They may make cheap seats. I know that back when the Panthers were, they're still kind of bad, but decent this year. But back when the Panthers were bad, the Lightning were bad, seats were cheap, and the Rays were bad. I used to go to when the Red Sox were coming to town, you get a ticket for $25.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, you can't even sniff Fenway for $25. All right, so back to football.
Oh yeah,
I think this is a football podcast, right?
I knew we were talking about something else.
Yeah, I think Houston should win this game. I think all things point to they're the better team. They should use a lot of Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson in this game just to be able to keep Deshaun Watson upright and just get out of here, get to the bye week. I don't know about the spread as far as, if I think Houston's going to win, I should lay the 1.5. Not a lot of games fall on that one. But I decided to remain off this because if I like Jacksonville, the money line's not there for our bonus. And I think Houston's going to win this game. So, foreshadowing. Hopefully I'm correct. All right, let's get back stateside here. And the first game I have on the docket here is, I believe, without doing another look, it's the biggest point spread of the weekend. That is Washington at Buffalo. And I don't have any information on who's going to start that game other than the fact that Case Keenum is not. We have 10.5 points with an over-under of 36.5.
Yeah, that total line is one that I've been looking at because...
Are we due for snow in Buffalo yet?
It's probably about that time. I know that other areas that are notorious for snowing on Halloween did get snow on Halloween.
Colorado got dumped.
So it seems like Buffalo should be ripe for it. Let me look up the weather report while we're talking about this game.
All right.
But it's you're right. It is the biggest spread of the game of the week, and it is one where we don't know what, if any, offense we are going to get out of a Washington team that has already been stagnant at offense pretty much the entire season.
Yeah, that's even with Case Keenum at the helm. Dwayne Haskins came in, was it 2 weeks ago? It wasn't the game against the 49ers. I think it was last week when he did not look good in his time. But, it's a rookie. He's going to struggle. But the situational matchup here against Buffalo's stout defense, if they decide, I can't imagine they're going to throw Dwayne Haskins in the fire at this point. You've already fired your head coach. Bill Callahan is not getting this job. If he does, Daniel Snyder is even dumber than I thought, which is not even fair because I already think he's really, really dumb. So I can't imagine they're giving Bill Callahan the job here. Why risk injury to your rookie quarterback?
Yeah, and especially against a defense like Buffalo's that's pretty notorious for being very swarmy, very in your face. This is the kind of game that can ruin a rookie's confidence if you do throw him out there. The problem is, I don't know who else. They don't have a shot of winning this game, which is, I think, why the spread is so large.
I would just go with Colt McCoy in this. But actually, I think Colt McCoy would give them a better shot at winning this game if their intention is to win this game. For all we know, Bruce Allen went down to Bill Callahan and said, all right, you're the interim head coach. You need to lose every game. Find a way to lose every game. Because, why not go for the number one pick? You're obviously not going to take Tua if you believe in Dwayne Haskins, but you can definitely beef yourself up with, they need so many things.
Sure, but if the intention is to lose every game, then that matchup they have against Miami in like week 14 or 15 or whatever it is that should be Monday Night Football right there.
Who are you talking about? The Redskins?
Yeah,
they just played Miami. They played Miami earlier.
Did they? I thought it was.
That's their only win of the year.
I thought it was coming up later on this season.
No, that was their. Remember the toilet bowl like 4 weeks ago?
Oh yeah. Why did I think that was later then?
I don't know. Maybe you looked at the Bills matchups because they play the Bills. They play the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Which they actually had more trouble with Miami than they will probably admit to. One thing of note, and I think this is pretty cool, despite the fact that he's killing my fantasy team in regards to Devin Singletary getting reps, is that Frank Gore needs 100 yards to pass Barry Sanders to move into third place all time on the NFL rushing list. Now, that can always be taken with a grain of salt with Barry Sanders because what he did in, 10 years of play?
Yep.
Frank Gore's been in the league at least another 4 or 5. But yards are yards, and no matter how long it takes you to get them, it's still a pretty significant accomplishment at that point.
Yeah. Gore came in the league in 2005.
So he's been in the league 15 years. Yeah, this is his 15th year in the league. So, as far as let's see, as far as the spread goes, this is going to be a tough one to really handicap. I'm praying that Colt McCoy is the starter because I believe that I started to watch the game against Philadelphia in regards to Buffalo, when Buffalo played Philadelphia last week. And when Fake Token made the claim that Buffalo's winning in spite of Josh Allen, I kind of tended to slough it off. But and again, this is only a small sample size. He might be right in the sense of Josh Allen still does look a little lost against teams with a defensive pulse.
Yeah, and
he looked bad against Philadelphia.
It's a little bit of the gunslinger mentality, which has worked for him in the past, but at other times really comes back to bite him in the ass, and I think we saw that in that Philadelphia game. And I was all over Buffalo in that one, too. I expected them to win and win pretty easily in that game, even though I think it was only a 1.5-point spread. Mm-hmm. I thought Buffalo winning by a touchdown was definitely a possibility in that game, and oof, boy, did they get fucking curb stomped.
They got trumped, yeah.
Yeah, so not a great look, but yeah, I think that is, Josh Allen is, we're seeing the bad side of him in that game. I think this week is the perfect time for the coaches to sit down with him and say, you're not Brett Favre. Stop acting like him. Just go out there, do your job, run the game plan as it's supposed to be run. Don't worry about making all the fancy shit. Don't worry about getting on SportsCenter. Just win the game. And I think he can, especially with that defense. With what Fake Token said, I think there are certainly games where they are winning in spite of what Josh Allen does, but I think Josh Allen is, as much as I've shit on the guy for the last year and a half, I think he is good enough to win games in this league, and I think he can do it on his own, on his arm. And
I still think so far he's arguably the best of the five, and the only one that really you have an argument with is Lamar Jackson. And I know that Lamar Jackson has been more successful wins losses wise, but yeah, I think so far Josh Allen is ahead of the curve. It's just funny you mentioned Brett Favre because of that gunslinger mentality, and that he needs to go more to a Tom Brady aspect of, hey, look, you don't got to throw the ball 50 yards every other play. Take that shot when it's available. He grew up idolizing Tom Brady. So,
yeah.
Maybe focus your mentality on your idol, I guess, or your, the person you looked up to as a kid, rather than, taking the shots and trying to be the heroic savior of this team. And with Devin Singletary coming back with that defense, Washington's defense is god-awful. Just run the ball. Right. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy. Just run the ball. Yeah. Get out of there. And give Devin Singletary 225 and 3 touchdowns. For the love of God. I played him over Emmanuel Sanders, and Emmanuel Sanders had 17 points last night.
I took and benched Kenyon Drake in favor of...
I'm playing against Kenyon Drake this week. That's what even hurt. It was a 35-point swing because Kenyon Drake had 24 points. And Emmanuel Sanders I left on the bench with 17, a 41-point swing.
Yeah.
So unless Devin Singletary gets somewhere around 17 points, I'm going to feel really bad about that decision.
Yeah. The good news is no snow predicted for the game on Sunday in Buffalo. I looked it up, 42 degrees, partly cloudy. So
that's summer in Buffalo.
Yeah, it should be a great time for them, that if they do want to mix it up and they do want to throw the ball, then they can. A couple of us do have plays on this game. We'll get to that at the end of this podcast. But, I think this is going to be an interesting one to watch for the morning. Even as bad as Washington is, I do want to see what Buffalo can do in this game.
Yeah, I think Washington's going to go with Colt McCoy in this game if they're smart, and especially if they're trying to tank. I think Washington is... Well, actually, no, I take that back. If Washington was trying to tank, I think they'd throw Dwayne Haskins out there. I'm hoping Colt McCoy is probably on the end of this, but I think we're going to try something new. We're going to give our picks out at the end of the podcast. I think that might be a better situation here. Tennessee and Carolina, we have 3.5 points in favor of Carolina, who got fucking destroyed by San Francisco, against Tennessee, who is coming off of a controversial win against Tampa Bay. And I say controversial because
you're a Tampa Bay fan.
Well, that plus the fact that it would have made me 5-0 in the early games going into in our bet. And I watched that replay 100 times. How they missed that fumble. It was the holder. He literally, the minute he got contacted with, the ball hit the ground. Like, how did you miss that? They need, and again, this is not just because of the Tampa Bay thing. They need an eye in the sky replay official and in a spot like that. If you see the ball on the ground, just call a fumble. You can always bring the ball back. I think that should be the error on the side.
Yeah, and I to the referee's credit, which you're not going to hear me say this often, I think this year more than other years they have been letting plays run out.
It's a smart move.
Yeah, and it's the correct move, and it's what the fans want to see rather than having the whistle blow the play dead.
Especially since it's a scoring play. The guy picked the ball up and scored on a defensive touchdown, and they ruled that it was down. Then when they re-ruled it, they ruled that it was a fumble, but because they blew it down, he could not advance.
Right.
It's like, come on, that's the worst possible outcome of that.
Yeah, it's batshit crazy.
Because if he rule a fumble and it turns out he's down, it's easy to go back and say, okay, well, you didn't convert the first down, fourth down, or that fourth down, turnover on downs, then they get the ball back, and then Tampa Bay gets the ball back. That's no problem. But yeah, you can't brick a call that bad and then call it down. Yeah, just let the play run. I think that's the easiest thing, and maybe that's something that they'll go forward with. Just let the play run, even if you think that that's the wrong call. Because I know that the flip side of that is while they're letting the play run, there's a lot of times where the officials are so much more now under the microscope to make the call right. So now there's blown dead, but now you're trying to focus so much on making the call right that sometimes it's still blatantly wrong, and it affects a game to that magnitude because Tampa Bay would have taken the lead. Tennessee was out of timeouts. I mean, I'm not saying that Tennessee couldn't go down and score, but they would have had to have scored a touchdown at that point.
Yeah, it was such a bad ending for that game, but it is what it is. This is life in the NFL, and you just gotta. Yeah, you got to move forward.
Too much is being decided not by football. And that's my problem.
And that's been the problem that people have had with college football for a number of years, with the way that the national championships were decided. Even with the playoff format, people still want more teams in there than they have. As and again, the argument is let's decide.
I'm one of them.
Let's decide it on the field. So.
Yeah, you sit in a boardroom with people with ADs of these schools. How can you sit in a boardroom with athletic directors of these schools and of these conferences and say that there's a biased outcome here? It is what it is. We can. You don't sit in our college podcasts. Well, we've had long podcasts.
I can imagine.
Trust me, especially when the years that UCF went undefeated. So, all right. So where are we at here? We're back to Tennessee and Carolina.
Tennessee, Carolina. I do want to remind everybody that last week all four of us were on Carolina plus 6.5.
First consensus pick in 8 weeks.
First consensus pick of the season, and they lost by what, 30? 40?
4, yeah. It was 51-10, so what is that, 41 points?
Just a ridiculous beatdown. And I did get to watch the game with a 49ers buddy of mine, so he was a 49ers fan. So he was ecstatic, and I was trying to be happy along with him, for not letting on that I had Carolina plus 6.5, Carolina money line.
Well, once you realize that's out of the balance, you're just like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, speaking of the MGM bet, you'll get a kick out of this. I threw Appalachian State was such a big favorite. I threw $10 to win $1, and they lost outright.
Oh,
so I lost $10. So
hey,
I'm at like $39 now in my account.
I've got like 19, but I've got a bunch in action, especially tomorrow with a parlay going on that I actually feel pretty confident about. I hate when I feel confident about parlays, but this one's a 5-leg that I feel pretty good about. Including one minus 500 money line that I took. So
in college?
No, pro.
Oh, okay. That must have been Buffalo.
I think so. Yeah. I do have 1 or 2 college bets going today too.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we'll see how that goes.
All right. So back to this. Kyle Allen has now lost a game as a starter.
Yes. Does that mean that there is a quarterback controversy in Carolina?
I'm curious because you have you have a triangle going on right now. Cam Newton's out. He's probably going to be out next week. I would say shut him down so you could maybe have some trade value for him in the offseason. That's my opinion. Kyle Allen is 4-1 He's 5-1 all time, 4-1 this year. Finally lost the game to a team that, okay, if we believe the 49ers are for real, he should have lost that game too. On the road, late game, tough spot.
Yep.
You just run into the mic?
I'm not used to wearing a hat, but I haven't showered this morning, so my hair was all over the place. And yes, my hat just...
Oh, I thought your face ran into the mic.
No, it was my hat.
I saw it on my peripheral vision.
Drilled the microphone there.
And then you have Will Grier. They drafted him in the 3rd round out of West Virginia. He had a pretty decent college career, and I assume now in today's day and age, if you're drafting a quarterback in the first 3 rounds, it used to be a first-round pick. I think if you're drafting the first 3 rounds, you're expecting them to take the reins at some point. So you almost have such a quarterback controversy, 3-way quarterback controversy.
Yeah, it is strange. I think you're right about Cam Newton. This is a team, even at 4-4, they're currently sitting dead last in the NFC South, or 4-3. Yeah, 4-3. I'm thinking of Tennessee's 4-4, and they're dead last in the AFC South. That's where I was mixed up. But
a little dyslexic today.
4-3, they're still alive, but I think right now, I think you're right. Cam Newton is not the right choice. I shut him down, and I put him out there as trade bait. Hopefully Chicago takes him, because I think that's the right offense for him.
Chicago or Denver?
Yeah, Denver actually might be a little bit better, but I think John Elway doesn't necessarily like that kind of quarterback, and I don't mean black, I mean mobile and kind of running all over the place.
I will make a bold prediction here that may come true, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no, go ahead.
I'll say this with a grain of salt, but I'm still kind of serious. I think John Elway saw the success that Peyton Manning had and how he's loved in Denver for obviously winning a Super Bowl. John Elway is obviously the guy in Super Bowl, in Denver, the guy in Denver that no matter what he does, he's always going to be loved for the things he does on the field. However, I don't think he wants anyone else on those pedestals, so he's intentionally sabotaging the quarterback position while he's the general manager of the Broncos.
There was a report that came out last week or 2 weeks ago.
I stand by it.
That said, not necessarily that you're wrong, but when the Broncos were about to draft a quarterback, they had Russell Wilson on the board, and they said, we like everything about him, but we're taking Brock Osweiler. And the one thing that Elway didn't like was height. They thought that Russell Wilson was too short, and they liked that Brock Osweiler was, 6'8" or something?
Yeah, something like
ridiculous.
That,
yeah. So that's why they went with the Brock Lobster. Obviously, we know how that's worked out.
I wonder if it would have worked out in Denver, though. He actually was halfway decent in Denver.
He wasn't bad, yeah, but
he signed. They screwed up the free agent negotiations, and he ran to Houston for $88 million or whatever it was. And I know that by the time he came back, he was probably so much damaged goods in Denver that it didn't work. But the time he was there, I mean, you could argue that he had more of a hand in winning the Super Bowl for Denver, despite the fact that Peyton Manning played in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, when he was in there, when he was called into service, he definitely played well. But I think, I'm not saying that you're necessarily wrong about
I'm making it mostly
Elway.
in jest. It seems so far ridiculous, but could you imagine the fact that subconsciously through his mind, he's like, I don't want anyone to ever be. Because the thing is, no matter what he does, I don't think Ann Bolen's going to fire him. Bolin or whatever his name is.
Definitively not. But that's the thing. I was going to say, I don't think you're wrong because we've seen this attitude out of quarterbacks before, specifically Peyton Manning when it came to his backups. He always wanted trash backups, so he never had to worry about losing his job. And I think that having that mentality of always being a number one and being on that pedestal.
We saw it with Brett Favre. He said he wasn't going to tutor Aaron Rodgers.
Sure. No, I mean, and this is, I think that that's certainly within the realm of possibility, and I think that quarterbacks, especially when they move into front office jobs, can get blinded by things like that, and we've seen it in Denver because they're just whatever they're throwing out there at quarterback ever since Peyton Manning just hasn't worked out for him.
Yeah, I'll add that to my Rolodex of bold predictions. Now has reached outlandish, crazy bold predictions that has now reached 2. There's that with John Elway. And there's the fact that I believe that Tim Tebow is an undercover playboy who sleeps around, comes to Vegas, a la Tiger Woods. I don't know if that's ever going to get revealed. Can you imagine if that story broke? I know how much Tiger Woods' escapades became shocking news, but can you imagine if Tim Tebow's escapades were on par with Tiger Woods?
Wow.
Sleeping with porn stars, banging waitresses at Perkins, wrapping his car around a tree. I mean, that would be Tiger Woods shocking times a billion. I mean, given the fact that he is so, the kneel and everything, so religious.
What would be more shocking from Tim Tebow if only one of these two things happened? Tim Tebow caught with a hooker, or Tim Tebow caught high on cocaine?
More shocking?
More shocking.
The hooker. Only for the simple fact of he has been a very strong proponent of no sex before marriage. And the fact of the matter is he's never really had a stance on drugs, while, yes, they are probably religiously unacceptable. He's a very busy guy. He needs to stay awake.
But we see this plenty of times with guys that are anti-abortion. It turns out they paid their mistress to have an abortion. We've seen the anti-homosexuals who get caught with young boys in hotel rooms. We've seen it from the no sex before marriage crowd, and they're always out there having affairs. So I'm wondering...
He's never really been a big, don't do drugs kind of guy.
Yeah, no, you're right about that.
I would say the hooker would be more shocking.
All right. Yeah, maybe you're right.
I really kind of want to. I'm telling you, I want this bold predictions to come true.
I do too now.
All right, so
where are we here?
I don't think we've actually talked about this Tennessee-Carolina game.
No, we haven't. A couple of us have plays on this. Actually, fake tokens all over it. Again, we'll get to those. The
fake tokens all over it. Yeah, for sure. But I can see Carolina just. They're the better team. I don't. Whatever this magic that Tannehill has, it's working so far. He has, in 2 straight weeks, somehow got a goal line stand 3 times in the Charger game, and he has somehow got the refs to not blow or not allow the Tampa Bay return touchdown to win the game as well. So what kind of voodoo magic is he doing to resurrect his career, quote unquote? I'm interested in to see. This game will probably be close. I'm mostly interested to see if Christian McCaffrey can build on his potential. Not Heisman, MVP campaign here.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is there's nothing really else standing out. Usually it goes to a quarterback. I think Aaron Rodgers has moved into the front of that race behind Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes and Russell Wilson. But I think Christian McCaffrey, quietly, if this team can find a way to make the playoffs, I think he has a case for MVP.
Yeah, I think you are correct. I just worry that. I mean, I just don't think that that Tennessee's scoring enough points right now. Even if they're winning games, even if they're moving the ball, this, that, and the other. Right now, they are just their strength right now is the defense, and I think that if they're not able to put up enough points, like they are currently, let's see, for the season they have put up 148 points, which is to compare it to even Baltimore. Baltimore's at 214.
Less than 20.
Yeah, New England's put up 250. Even the Steelers have put up more than Tennessee at this point. So it's tough for me to really jump on the Tennessee offensive bandwagon. The defense
put up about 17, 18 points a week.
Yeah, the defense is, I think, what's keeping them in games and keeping them at 500 right now, more than anything else.
Yeah, Carolina's offense is probably far statistically better than Tennessee's offense. However, their defense is a little Swiss cheesy lately, with the exception of Luke Kuechly. This is going to be an interesting game. I think this game's going to be close. I know we talked about doing the picks later. I don't have an official pick on this, so I will say that Carolina probably wins this game by a touchdown.
Yeah, I don't have a pick on this game either, although the one that I do love is the under 42 in this spot. Again, just because what I just said, I think Tennessee's defense is really good. I think Carolina's defense is really good. I think Tennessee's offense is kind of meh. So
I think that shutout really hurts Tennessee's points per game average.
Sure, but
shutout at home.
Yeah, but
or on the road.
You got to score points.
Sure. No, of course. No, I'm just saying. I know that it's a lot of times. Sometimes points per game. Sometimes stats can be skewed a little bit by one outlier.
Sure.
They're probably somewhere around 20 to 23 points a game regularly for the rest of the games where they play well.
Yeah.
Under 42 would be an interesting proposition because I can kind of see this at a 24-21 game, 23-17. So it's really kind of straddling that 42 line.
Yeah.
In that spot. So.
And we do have somebody within our group that did agree with me on that under, but there's plenty of picks to go around in this one, so we'll get back to that.
All right, we'll get back to that. Chicago and Philadelphia at home. We talked about Philadelphia kind of barnstorming Buffalo in this spot. Chicago coming off of a what do you call it? Just a horrendous loss. Bad management by Nagy. I don't know if you watched this game against the Chargers last week. By taking a knee with time instead of running the ball and trying to get 3 or 4 more yards. And I was watching the game with a buddy. We even said because of that missed field goal, how it bent left. If they had had those extra 5 yards, that kick would have been good.
Yeah, well, not only that, the kicker wanted it on in the middle of the field, and Nagy was the one that said put it on the left hash mark.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, which that when the coach overcoaches and goes against his kicker's wishes, not to shit on guys that are making millions of dollars a year playing a kid's game, but kickers are fragile little flowers of human beings, so they need to be protected. And if the kicker says that he wants it in the middle of the field, put it in the fucking middle of the field. You don't overcoach a kicker.
Why give one player whatever they want and another player not whatever they want when it's something as trivial as this?
Right.
The thing is if it's true, and I'm not saying that I don't believe you. I just didn't hear it. If it's really true that Nagy went against his kicker's wishes, and God forbid, I would hope Eddie Pinheiro didn't miss the kick out of spite, which I doubt.
I can't imagine he would have.
But God forbid that's the case. You can only imagine that things are. That's a small sample of things unraveling in Chicago, and that's not fair because I think there's unrealistic expectations because of what happened last year. I think Chicago's a solid team, and I say that even despite Trubisky. The defense is good. For whatever reason, they can't get the running game going, and I don't understand why. But Trubisky, because he's so wildly inaccurate down the field, why Tariq Cohen is not catching 15 balls a game.
Yeah, it does seem strange that how this offense is being utilized, which is, again, why...
From an offensive guru. Too.
Yeah, which is why I think Cam Newton to Chicago makes a whole lot of sense.
We won't see that this year. The trade deadline came and went. I was kind of hoping that we'd have some wrinkles. Trade deadline was boring.
Yeah, no, it really kind of was.
But ha-ha to Aqib Talib.
To be fair, the Rams aren't going anywhere this year either. I mean, even if 5-3,
going a lot farther than the Dolphins. He didn't even go to Miami. Did you hear that?
No,
he's injured. He's probably going to shut it down for the year. So the Rams gave Miami basically a 5th round pick for a 7th round pick because Aqib will never play because Aqib's a free agent after this year.
Wow.
Which made me kind of wonder. They're like, oh, we want to shed cap space. So my guess is that they want to sign Ramsey to an extension ASAP.
Oh, that certainly makes sense. And, to Miami's credit, they are stocking up on future draft picks.
They do that a lot.
Yeah, getting rid of
That's what I'm saying.
talent.
To basically never have to deal with Aqib Talib, we just basically move from the 7th to the 5th.
Yeah, I mean, that it's not a bad move for Miami whatsoever. I
hope Flores keeps his job.
Oh, he has. I mean, anybody going into that job first year has to tell ownership we'll be lucky to win 2 games. Anybody that put any other kind of expectations on this team probably should lose their job. But I would hope Flores is smart enough to say, we're not going to win year 1, probably not going to win year 2, but this is a 5-year plan. Let me implement at least 3 of it so that we can move in the right direction.
I want to talk about. We're going to get to that Miami because they play the Jets game. I want to talk about something. Hopefully, I'll remember it then, as in regards to the plan. But back to Chicago and Philadelphia. Yeah, Trubisky. I've watched probably more Chicago football in the last 4 weeks than I have in a while. He is wildly inaccurate. Very, very poorly inaccurate. And I know the storyline, if he ends up being a flame-out bust, is that you could have had Mahomes or Deshaun Watson. But you got to move forward. They don't have either of them. They've got Mitch Trubisky. You've got to find a way to play to his strengths, and that's his legs and the dink and dunk. Yeah, and they don't do those things.
It's baffling to me, and I think that, nothing in this system is working. I know, we were just talking a minute ago about, points for, points against, probably not the best indicator, but Chicago's offense has put up 128 points per game. I was just shitting on Tennessee for not putting up enough points, or 128 points this year.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, and I was just shitting on Tennessee for not putting up enough points.
And Tennessee got shut out one week.
Yeah, and, Chicago's put up even fewer points than them.
And in the blowout against New Orleans, they got 21 points in garbage time.
Yeah, so, this is,
They're a team that has to play. They're almost like Denver. They have a handicap at quarterback. They should have a decent running game, a short passing game that should be good, and a strong defense. That should be your MO.
But they're still 3-4, which is the crazy thing, that they're not out of it. Well, I mean,
they're probably out of winning the NFC North.
Yeah, that division's tough as shit.
Yeah.
But
I mean, shit. What is Detroit 3-3-1?
Yeah,
I mean,
so they're
in last place at this point. It's Chicago.
Chicago's in last place, but we're still looking at a team that if they run 12-4 and Detroit kind of shits the bed.
That shit ain't happening.
Minnesota. Oh, well, yeah, I understand that.
But if they run 9-7, can they realistically find their way into a wild card spot? They're going to regress. They've already regressed this year.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just such a weird team, such a bad.
As it currently sits, they are 7th in the wild card standings. You have Seattle and Minnesota taking the wild card. They've already beaten Minnesota, so they have a leg up. They go through Minnesota one more time at Minnesota. They have one more against Green Bay, and I think they've got both games against Detroit. So the way that they're going to do it is to go right through the division. So it's obviously easier said than done. But back to Philadelphia. Everybody's high on Philadelphia. This strikes me, and I don't have an official play in this game, so I will touch on it. I'm just going to make sure I don't have an official play in this game, so I will touch on it. This strikes me as a case of the market. I don't know what they call it, but the market going in two different directions. Everybody's very low on Chicago. They're already ready to get rid of Trubisky, and everybody's very high on Philadelphia because anytime Philadelphia wins, and God forbid wins by more than 10, somehow, some way, things are just right again in Philly.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what to make of this either. I actually do have a play on this game, so I don't want to get too in-depth in it just this minute.
Well, then I'll finish my thought. The fact that Detroit was in the same situation with Philadelphia and walked in and beat them earlier in the year. So
this is a...
the line is 4. The total's 41.5. I never mentioned that.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. I do want to mention one thing about that Chicago game last week where they missed the field goal. My wife's uncle's in town. He's from Minnesota, and they allow one of the Indian casinos out there will do essentially a contest where you have to pick the games, not against the spread, just pick them straight up. And it started week 1. It was $1,000. You get them all right, you get $1,000. Week 2, and if nobody wins, then it goes to $2,000. Nobody's gotten it so far this season. My uncle missed the $7,000 grand prize because of that Chicago field goal. Because he had the Bears and he had every other game.
Did he not hedge behind? He was in Vegas.
Well,
or was he not in Vegas?
He was not in Vegas at that point.
I would have called up and said, Spike's wife?
Yeah.
Give me in play on who they play the Chargers. Give me in play on the Chargers right now. Especially when they were down before that touchdown.
So that's that was a rough one. I mean, these are two teams that, if you look at the records, they're more or less square. But if you look at the stats that have gone on this year, we're looking at two very different teams, both from being able to put up points and giving up points. So this is going to be, I think, an interesting one to watch, a fun one to watch. But I think you're right. Trubisky is frustrating as shit. It's difficult to watch this guy play quarterback because he's just all over the place. Trying to figure out exactly where he's throwing the ball, how he's going to throw the ball. I don't know. The flip side of that is I'm not super high on Carson Wentz either.
Not a lot of people are outside of Philadelphia. But this is what I'm saying. I don't know if it's the market or if it's just Philly or if it's just the media. When they win a game, and especially like they did against Buffalo, somehow, like when they lose a game against Dallas, 37-10, the sky is falling. Oh my God, what are we going to do? We need to go get Jalen Ramsey. We need to go get Mike Evans. And then when they win a game against Buffalo like that, all of a sudden the market's just like ridiculous.
Yeah. So, I think part of it, too, is not just the market, but I think it's Philadelphia in general, because they're the most psychotic people on the planet.
Fair.
So it's difficult to really take any of the hype, positive or negative, seriously that comes out of that town. So,
I have no official play, but I'm on Chicago in the under in this game.
Yeah, you kind of have to block all that stuff out and just see how the chips fall in this one.
All right, no action here. There are a couple places that do have lines on Kansas City and Minnesota. Currently, according to the Westgate, it is off the book, but you can get it at CG, which is Venetian, and among other places. Circa Sports, which is a lot of the hotels downtown as they build the new Circa Hotel, and the Station Casinos all have lines on this game. Minnesota and Kansas City. My guess is they would sit Patrick Mahomes another week because it's at home, and I think they played relatively well against Green Bay last week. And the fact of the matter is that, correct me if I'm wrong, I try to look at the standings here. They are still in first place at 5-3, and
Yes.
their closest competitor is 3-4.
Oakland, yep.
So my guess is that Oakland's got a tough matchup against Detroit. Where else are we at? Who else are we playing? Denver against Cleveland with no Joe Flacco. And the Chargers are the Chargers are hosting Green Bay.
Yeah.
So my guess is that Pat Mahomes will not play for those reasons. And Matt Moore is self-sustainable in this offense. That being said, the line is currently Minnesota is a 3-point favorite or 4.5-point favorite at the books that still have lines. We can't make an official play because of the Westgate not having a line. Your thoughts on this game? The total is somewhere in between 46 and 48.
Yeah, it's sort of a weird spot for me. I like this game from a fantasy perspective. I would just start all Vikings because, we talk about some teams having porous defenses, and I'm not sure Kansas City has any defense. So, I've got, personally, I've got Cousins and Diggs going for me this week. If I could get more of the Vikings, I would have, but nobody's dropping them for the waiver wire. So, it's an interesting spot. It's a spot where I think Moore has played well. I mean, he's serviceable. He's certainly, he's not the right quarterback for that system necessarily, but he's still...
Nobody's Pat Mahomes.
No, and that's sort of the problem is that no matter who they throw out there at backup, it's not going to be Pat Mahomes. They're not going to put up 50 points a game. But he's looked all right, and, he's kept them serviceable. But I think Minnesota's just playing too well right now. And I think,
Agreed.
I think that the Vikings are kind of rolling on at this point, and I don't expect this game to be any different. So if you can get this one with, especially with the lines or some of the books running 2.5, then I'd jump all over that for Minnesota. 3.5. That's where you start getting a little wonky, but that 2.5 point line, I love for Minnesota. If you can grab
I think
it.
Kansas City showed that they can hold with the Packers, and the Vikings on some semblance of a level are very similar.
Yeah.
As a team. This all goes with Kirk Cousins. He can't take this week off and just expect because Pat Mahomes is not in the game that he can, loaf off. He's been playing well. I'm rooting for him to I don't know if the right word is earn his contract, but to live up to this contract because it was an unprecedented, fully guaranteed contract. And yeah, I got Dalvin Cook going, which obviously he was a must start no matter what. He's been one of the best fantasy options this year. I'm hoping that they get out to a big enough lead that Dalvin just kind of starts to pound and ground his way to about 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. That'd be great. Appreciate it. All right, Miami and the Jets. And I wanted to get back to that comment that we were talking about with Brian Flores here. The line is the Jets -3, total is 42. And my assumption here with the way that this season is playing out and the fact that Fitzpatrick is playing is that they hate everything about Josh Rosen. Why is he not playing? You trade a second-round pick for him. You're clearly tanking or some version of tanking. Why are you not seeing what you have in Josh Rosen? I mean, I get you probably going to try to take Tagovailoa, however the hell you say his name, out of Alabama. But Ryan Fitzpatrick's not your quarterback of the future, so you're either tanking and don't care about Rosen, or you're tanking and saving Rosen with the plan for him to be the starter next year, or they're completely done with Rosen. It's one of those three.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I think it's an interesting spot for them just because it's so weird that they would go out there, trade to get this kid, give him absolutely no protection, absolutely no weapons.
And not even start him. They only start him when Fitzpatrick got hurt.
Yeah, aside from Kenyon Drake, who they then traded away, and now they're just kind of sitting there twiddling their thumbs. And you're right, it's very peculiar.
And everything I hear is that he is great in practice.
So if he's great in practice, they went out and got him. My thought is that he is being saved for next year. This is a sit down. You're still basically a rookie. Learn the playbook. kind of hang out here. We'll lose with Fitzmagic, and we'll do our thing. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's such a peculiar spot to see somebody go out, trade a second-round pick for a quarterback, and then not use the quarterback at all. It's very, very strange.
My hope is that, and only because I may have made the boo-boo of saying when all those 5 guys were drafted last year that he was going to be the best out of all of them.
Yes.
So my only reason I'm sticking to wondering about Josh Rosen is because I'm hoping that at some point that maybe actually come true.
So
I thought that was going to be in Arizona, obviously, but
there is an interesting note about this game, which I just read. Should New England beat Baltimore on Sunday night,
Miami's eliminated?
the loser of this game between the Jets and the Dolphins will be mathematically eliminated from AFC East contention.
Wow.
So it doesn't matter which one of them. If New England wins, then the loser is out of the running to win the AFC East.
So because they'll both be, if Miami wins, they'll both be 1-7.
Yep.
So because Miami still plays New England twice, they'll have a mathematical shot.
Yeah, no,
Did they already play once?
They already played once.
How did
That was week 2 where New England won. New England shut them out 41.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. You're right. Yeah. So the Jets, because they're already 0-2 against.
Yep.
So if New England wins, they'll be 9-0. The worst they can do is 9-7, and the Jets, if they lose, could best do 9-7. Wow.
And they would be 0-2
against New England. Wow. Yeah. That's. What are we in, week 9?
This is week 9 coming up.
Week 9, and you're already eliminated from the division. Yikes.
Yeah, that's not ideal. Especially a lot of people were high on the Jets this year, too.
I was not one of them, but...
I definitively was not, but I think Sports Illustrated actually picked the Jets to win the AFC East and go deep in the playoffs.
Well,
I think
every year somebody's throwing that shit out there hoping that they get it right.
No, I understand. It's the Max Kellerman approach. You just say a bunch of shit, and even if you're right like 0.5% of the time, then you can act like Nostradamus.
Yeah.
This is what
so
we can get into this later, but my dad's a big fan of this guy, Edgar Casey, who was a quote-unquote prophet back in like the 20s and 30s. Basically, this guy would go to sleep and then, or quote-unquote go to sleep, and then start giving out predictions of people. And he gave out like 130,000 predictions and got like 300 right. And people are like, oh, he's a prophet. He's a seer. He knows what's going to happen. It's like, dude, if he was guessing, he should have gotten more of these things right.
Well, that kind of it kind of relates to sports gambling. If I give you 100 sports picks and I get 60 of them right, I'm a god.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Or if I give you 100 underdogs and I get 40 of them right, you're richer than you used to be. All right, I'll look through this. I thought Tampa Bay would be better. I thought Atlanta would be better.
I was big on Atlanta too.
I thought Denver would be better, and I thought Cincinnati would be better than they are this year.
I thought the Chargers would be better. That was the team that's really fucked me this year. They're hurting me.
I also thought Jacksonville would be better, but I also thought that was with Nick Foles. So
yeah.
Hell, if they can tread water till he gets back, I'm not saying I love everything about Gardner Minshew, but Nick Foles is better than Gardner Minshew. I think if they can tread water till he gets back, because I think he comes back in like 2 weeks. If they're 6-6 in 2 weeks, he can go 3-1 down the stretch. They got a shot. Especially if they got to get through Houston and Indianapolis and Tennessee. So
yeah,
and they've already beat Tennessee once. And I think they narrowly lost to Houston, and I can't remember what they did against Indianapolis.
Yeah, the one thing I do want to point out about this Jets-Miami game.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're still talking about that.
Yeah. Depending on where you look, the Jets opened as a 6.5-point favorite. It's moved down to 3. Covers actually has it that Miami opened as a 1-point favorite.
That was probably preseason, maybe.
Preseason wouldn't have a line for week 9, though.
Dude, they put out lines in, after the draft.
Right, for, weeks 1, maybe 2, maybe 3. Not all the way into week 9.
I think Westgate puts out the whole season, in the preseason.
Oof.
Which you can get lines early, but then they also change. I don't know. I mean, if Covers has that at fucking -1, I'm not sure what they're... I mean, I don't know when they had that line, That's the question.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem, is that I don't know where these lines came from necessarily.
Well, here you go. Line history. I'm on covers here right now as well.
Especially with Vegas Insider saying that, no, it opened as Jets 6.5-point favorites.
Let's see. That's the only line history since. Can you give me anything earlier? Give me the opening line. Yeah, they only have about 6 days back.
Yeah.
I wonder if anybody has the opening line history. Anyways, not that important. We're spending way too much time on Miami and the Jets. I have an official play on this, so I'll withhold.
I don't remember if I do. I'm certainly not going to watch the game. So
no, I have no intention of watching the game.
Yeah,
Thank God it's not a Monday night game like that Miami-Pittsburgh game.
Fucking hell, that was terrible.
All right, so here's in my opinion, the strangest game on the board. Indianapolis at Pittsburgh.
Yes.
You got no Roethlisberger. Obviously, he's been out for the year.
Yep.
You've got Indianapolis, who's been successful this year. What did we say they were? They're 5-2.
Yep.
Leading the the AFC South.
Yep.
They're on the road, which I understand is always tough to play in Pittsburgh. We have Mason Rudolph with a doubtful James Conner, which means he's more than likely not going to play. If you're still doubtful by this point, you're more than likely out if you didn't practice Friday. So no James Conner, backup quarterback.
No inclement weather.
No inclement weather, and Pittsburgh's a 1-point favorite.
How?
I had a feeling that was coming. We got 40.5 on the total.
It's such a strange line. You know, obviously we always say the home field advantage is usually worth 3 points.
Is this only a product of the Indy game against Denver last week? And how good Pittsburgh looked against Miami in the last 3 quarters?
Maybe, but I mean, I can't imagine people are overreacting to a game against Miami, are they?
By the looks of it, it looks like Vegas is hoping they do. I mean, the fact that Indianapolis is 5-2 versus Pittsburgh, who's 3-4, which is again not totally out of it. They've tread water. They're probably not a contender, obviously, but they're not a team you can just overlook. It's a weird line. I mean, it's pick 'em. It's basically pick 'em or one in favor of Pittsburgh everywhere.
Yeah, and I think this, and I do have a play on this. Obviously,
feels like a trap.
I kind of tipped my hand on it, saying, you know, when I said that when Pittsburgh was a favorite, I said how, why, whatever.
I didn't hear when you said that.
Yeah, I wonder if this is not about necessarily the game on the field, and they just know that Pittsburgh in general generates so many more tickets and so much more money than any other team, especially a team that's kind of flying under the radar like Indianapolis, that this line is only out there to try to balance the ticket intake for the books. Because that's the only thing that makes sense to me about this line.
Yeah, I have no official play on this. I love the under. I think both teams' defenses play very well. You have a backup quarterback with Mason Rudolph. Although I'm hoping that he has this new connection with Deontay Johnson, who I put on my fantasy team the last couple of weeks, and only played when Mason Rudolph plays. And they've got this connection. I'm hoping that they can do that again this week, because I got a lot of bye weeks in a lot of my fantasy leagues. So I'm really hoping for a lot of Flyers to come through.
The Flyers play hockey.
Yeah, well, they're over in Philly. I'm hoping for the fantasy football Flyers to come through. Good one.
You go.
I feel like this is a trap, but I'm not sure which way. I feel like the trap that Vegas is trying to lay is that how do you get Indianapolis as a dog? You got to pound them. And I know that it sounds like that's your pick, and we'll find out at the end. I don't have an official play, but I feel like I would step into one of the two traps, and that's you're telling me Pittsburgh's the favorite here when they shouldn't be, so you're wanting me to take Indy. So by that logic, I'm going to take Pittsburgh, and that's what I would do.
Okay.
So that might be another complete trap as well. I feel like Pittsburgh can hold their own. I'm wondering if obviously they're wondering if Mason Rudolph is the quarterback of the future, with Ben Roethlisberger being 36, 37 years old and coming off of was it elbow surgery or whatever happened to him, tendon tear. I would take Pittsburgh in this spot, and I'm thinking, but because the picks are already locked in here with us, I'm thinking I might actually make an official play on that in my William Hill account or the MGM account.
Oh,
Pittsburgh
right.
-1.
All right, there you go.
So, all right, that wraps up the early slate. Let's go into the later games, where I have a lot of picks in the later games. So you'll be doing more of the analysis here in this spot, as to not tip my hand, but I'll still be talking about them.
I'm pretty heavy in the afternoon games too, though.
Are you?
So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll just kind of casually chat and then see how it goes. Oakland hosting Detroit. This one is very interesting because this is another one. I think Detroit probably should be the favorite. You're telling me that on a neutral site this game is even. I'm not sure. I believe Detroit's the better team. Although Derek Carr. I do that every time. Has been playing pretty well this year, and I like the weapons that Oakland has. And I think this is an overreaction again by Vegas in Detroit's ability to beat the Giants, which they actually were closer than they should have been, and Oakland's ability to stay with Houston even though they lost. I'm wondering if this is an overreaction by Vegas to set the market with -3. I don't have a play on the spread, but I would like Detroit in this spot. The total's 50.5. Yeah, I do have a play on the total.
Yeah,
that I'll tell you later.
I have a play against the spread too. The one thing that I think is kind of driving this line is Carr in the last 2 games. Some of his stats, he's thrown 7 touchdowns and only 1 pick over the last 4 games. Oakland only allowing 8 sacks through the year, and Derek Carr has only been sacked once in the last 4 games. So that rookie running back they have, Josh Jacobs, he's 620 yards. I think they're ranked like 7th in the league in rushing this year. So there's a lot to like about what Oakland is doing recently, which I think is what's swaying this line a little bit. But you still have to play the game, and I still think when it comes down to it, these two teams, this is going to be probably more of a dogfight than Vegas maybe expects. I don't know that. I think the line is skewed in the wrong way, one way or the other, and we'll get to that when I get to the actual picks. So, yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting game, and I'm curious to see how this one shakes out. This is actually one that I'm probably going to be watching in the afternoon.
Yeah, it does seem like an oddly interesting game, given the fact that there's a lot of good ones on the slate.
Sure.
In the times period. Okay, so let's move on to Tampa Bay and Seattle, and we have a line of 4.5 at the Westgate. It's 5. There's 6 in some places, 5.5. But we worry about the Westgate, and that's 4.5. So we've got an interesting spot here. The total is 53. Tampa Bay has notoriously done well on the scoreboard against Seattle when they go up to Seattle. They're not successful in the win column. Seattle's defense is not the Legion of Boom anymore, and they are definitely susceptible through the air in the secondary, which is Jameis Winston's specialty when he's down 35-10.
Yeah.
Is just picking up garbage time stats. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, so this is one where I don't have a play.
I do have a play on the total in this game.
Yeah, and in looking at this game, and I think you're absolutely right, where these are two teams that they're not playing defense like they used to. I think Jameis Winston is playing significantly better. I think Russell Wilson is playing very, very well. I think that even with the offensive line troubles that Seattle has had in the past, I think they've been doing a much better job of keeping Wilson upright this year. Still not perfect. I still am down on the pick of Rashad Penny when they definitely could have picked an offensive lineman last year, but that's beside the point, especially with the emergence of Carson being such a powerful weapon for Seattle. Again, no play on this game for me. Specifically, if I would be all over the over in this game. The only thing that scares me about trying to pick the line in this spot, these are two teams going in different directions. Seahawks are 6-2, Buccaneers are 2-5, but for some reason, the Buccaneers have won 4 of the last 5 games against Seattle, I think I read.
Yeah, they're mostly at home, though.
Yeah, so it's just a weird
Seattle
spot,
going west to east is always tough. That struggle has been chronicled heavily. Tampa Bay going east to west into Seattle has not been successful in the last decade or so.
Yeah, but neither of these teams have been good against the spread this year. Tampa Bay's 2-5, Seattle's 3-5, so that's why I wouldn't touch the spread in this one. But yeah, I think the over in this spot is probably the right way to go.
Yeah, and I'll just give you a little teaser. I'm actually on the over in this spot for both 7-game and 3-game. I think not only is garbage time Jameis Winston good for Tampa Bay putting up points, he's good for picks, which gives Seattle the ability to put up points too.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm on this game as well in the sense of I think it's going to be somewhere in the 34-31 or 34-27 kind of range. So that's where I'm sitting in this one in 7-game and 3-game with Tampa Bay and Seattle over 53 and then subsequently 53.5. So all right, Cleveland and Denver. This game, I don't know.
The resignation in your voice. Oh, my God.
Like, I don't know. Cleveland made me want to watch because I was one of the ones that was like, all right, you want all the smoke? I'm definitely rooting against you. I was never rooting for them to begin with, but they're just a whole big bag of just nothing but bulletin board material in Cleveland. But the thing is, they're walking into Denver at the right time. Not any real props to Joe Flacco. I think I've given up on my Joe Flacco ball washing at this point in my life. No real props to Denver, but they're walking in at a time where they get Brandon Allen, who's making his first official start. That actually gives me a glimmer of hope for Denver in the sense of, they something new, potential. We all love the theory of potential. Cleveland has to win this game. I'm wondering, hoping if Baker Mayfield can use his idiocracy. Is that the word? Or idiocy?
Idiocy.
Yeah. Idiocy. I mean, it uses idiocy of the way he acts to then turn it on, and I'm rooting for a big middle finger to the media by him because actually, I know that you're probably going to dispute this with me, but the game against the Patriots, -3 plays, Cleveland I thought hung tough.
They did. I think that
The 2 Chubb fumbles and then Baker's pass right to the fucking who was that? Not Lawrence guy, but whoever he threw it right to the guy.
Yeah,
it's basically a handoff.
I mean, it was a bad throw, but part of the reason that the Browns have been so bad this year is because that's not the first time Baker Mayfield has made a bad throw, a bad read. It's not the first time that this offense has made mistakes. This team's 2-5 for a reason.
No, I mean, I get that. I'm just saying the talent on that. Is it a chemistry issue? Because you brought Odell Beckham in, and he's with his best buddy, Jarvis Landry. And you would think Jarvis Landry, who's not a typical talker, would keep Odell Beckham in check. And I would actually say, given what Odell Beckham Jr. did in New York, he's been relatively quiet. And maybe that's just because Baker's making up for it in the media.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the watch issue, and that kind of went away after 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We had he was sucking Tom Brady's dick for a while, and especially last week when he gave him the quote, or the cleats.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, overall, I haven't really heard too much out of Odell Beckham.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that's a product of...
It's a product of Jarvis Landry.
I'm
willing to give him the credit.
It might be Beckham keeping his mouth shut so that during the offseason he can make noise and demand a trade and get the fuck out of there, because clearly Baker Mayfield, from what we're seeing this year compared to last year, it's a night and day difference. So Beckham has to think not necessarily that he got scammed or tricked into coming to Cleveland, but he can't feel good about the move there.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really have a choice. It was not like he has a no trade clause or anything.
Oh, sure, but going to a team like that, where Baker Mayfield is just not playing at an NFL level, it can't be good for him.
I mean, who's in the organization fucking not walking up to Baker Mayfield and being like, dude, shut up? Like, nobody on this team? I mean, I understand, the quarterback's the leader. We just talked about that earlier with regards to, who the fuck were we talking about? Josh Allen. And I get it, the quarterback's the leader, he's the vocal mouthpiece. But at some point, this is where you wish you had, Joe Thomas back. Where Joe Thomas walk up to Baker Mayfield and shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Play football. You suck right now. There's no reason you should be talking. If you don't want to answer you don't answer these questions from the media, just go Marshawn Lynch mode.
Yeah.
Shut up, dude.
Yeah,
and when you win a Super Bowl, you can middle finger the fuck out of all of them.
And that's the problem, is that they don't have leadership, which comes down to they don't have good coaching, which is why I think Kitchens...
Well, he was a bad hire to begin with.
He was a bad hire. If they keep him on for a second year, then I have no confidence that the Cleveland ownership group knows what they're doing.
The funny thing is it's starting to look more like they should have kept Greg Williams, of all people. I mean, am I wrong?
No, not at all. And that's why it was a big oof, because I hadn't thought of it until you said that.
I mean, he looked like the more reasonable hire, and you could have kept Freddie Kitchens on as offensive coordinator where he didn't have. Because I watched that game against the Patriots, obviously. I mean, it's pouring down rain. And anytime something went bad, Kitchens just sitting there almost a la Jason Garrett style, just chewing on his gum. Like, yeah. And the only thing I ever saw him say, and again, this is only when the camera panned to him, is, all right, shake it off, let's play football. And that was after the second Chubb fumble.
Yeah, and that's not coaching, that's a pep talk.
Yeah.
Like, that's a cheerleader.
Yeah, well, that's Jason Garrett.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
So we got 4.5 in this spot. Cleveland looking for the turnaround to the season. I think if they're, what are they, 2-6 right now?
Yeah, they're 2-6. Denver's 2-5. I think
they've got to win out, especially with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens being 5-2. And let's see, they've got to go through a lot to get to. Yeah, 2-6. They're currently 8th in the wild card standing. They've got to. They've got to run the table. It can't really. Oh, they're 2-5. Excuse me.
Yeah, Cleveland's 2-5. Denver's 2-6.
Yeah, they still can't really afford to lose another game. But if they do, they can only lose one. And I think Denver is not the one you can lose, given the fact that they still have one more against Baltimore. They got Buffalo. They got Pittsburgh on the road. And they got 2 against Pittsburgh. And they got one more against Baltimore, and that game against Arizona might not even be a slouch in Arizona. So the only real easy games they got left on the schedule is Miami and then the 2 against Cincinnati. So they got a long road ahead of them, and they cannot afford to lose this game.
Maybe Miami's playing Cincinnati. That's the game I was thinking about, the next toilet bowl.
That probably is the case. Let's see. I got it pulled up here. The Dolphins schedule.
I know the AFC East.
They play Cincinnati week 16.
That's the one I was thinking. That's the
first
overall pick bowl.
That's the first overall pick.
That's the one I was saying move to Monday night.
There you go. The first overall pick. Move that shit to Thursday night. I never watch the Thursday games anyway. So. All right. So now we have the last of the late slate, or the afternoon slate, is Green Bay at L.A. And talking about a team that needs to not lose anymore, that's the L.A. Chargers.
Yeah, no shit, I picked them to win the fucking West.
They're not getting any favors by Green Bay coming in, and Green Bay fans travel well. So this will probably be a de facto home game for Green Bay. I was listening to the Doug Gottlieb show.
I like that show.
I don't, but he was just on at the time. I leave Fox Sports Radio on my car pretty much all the time, unless I'm listening to Spotify. He was talking to Mike Williams, the receiver for the Chargers, and Mike Williams tried to give the politically correct answer, and then by not shutting up and running on at the mouth, he ended up saying, basically he started out, Doug Gottlieb, without direct quoting, basically said, what's it like for a lot of these games come in and feel like the road team in your own home building. And at first, Mike Williams was like, yeah, well, we don't really notice that. It's not something we pay attention to. I only pay attention to the numbers and the colors on the field of the teams I'm playing. And then he stopped for a second, and Doug didn't follow up with another question. He goes, but sometimes in the fourth quarter, when we need the home crowd, it definitely doesn't go our way. And I was like, oh, so close. So I'm willing to believe that stuff starts to affect them, the fact that they're visitors in their home building. Sure. And Green Bay is going to be no different. Green Bay is a 3.5-point favorite, going to feel like Lambeau West, and the total's 48.5.
Yeah, and this is a game that I'm all over, so I'm not going to get too deep into it. This is another spot of we're talking about two very different teams going in two very different directions. And the one thing that I just read is that the Packers have won the last 7 meetings and 10 of 11 overall, with the Chargers' only win coming in 1984.
I was not even born then.
Yeah, oof. Really?
I was not, no.
Oh,
I wouldn't be born for another 4 years.
Oh, my God. Fuck, I'm old.
Yes, but you didn't need me to tell you that for you to know that.
God.
But yes, LA's storied history of being successful against the Packers is well documented.
Yeah, it's a very, very strange scenario, and I think you're right that this is, a de facto home game for Green Bay, which... It
also tells me that in Green Bay they'd be a touchdown favorite, and on a neutral field they would be a 6-point favorite.
Yeah, that's... That doesn't necessarily bode well for the Clippers coming home. So,
well, since you're all over this game, I am on this game on the spread. all that being said, I think that's where the market needs to overcorrect itself. And actually, a lot of the tickets are going in on Green Bay minus 3.5. I'm going to be on the other side, and I'm going to play the Chargers plus 3.5 in my 7 game.
And you're going to lose.
Oh, you hope. I think this game is similar for Green Bay like the game they played a couple weeks ago against Detroit. Detroit's a very similar game. The quarterback is good enough. The running game really needs to get going for the Chargers, and I think they can do that. Green Bay's rush defense is somewhere around the middle of the pack in the NFL. As long as they can run up the middle. Those two Smith boys on the outside are fucking good. So if they can find a way to get Melvin Gordon going, which, I mean, if this guy wants to get paid, he needs to fucking start getting going. You know who I do like in this game is Austin Eckler. If you have Austin Eckler fantasy-wise, I think you have a good shot at getting some points. I think Green Bay ends up having to win this game on either assistance from the refs or a late field goal, or both.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree.
I thought Green Bay should have dismantled Kansas City, and they didn't.
I just think that Aaron Rodgers finally has a defense, and the Clippers haven't shown
I think Green Bay will win this game. Don't get me wrong.
Was that?
I think Green Bay will win this game.
Oh, yeah. Which is bad news for Fake Token, but I think this is just a spot where Green Bay's defense is playing very well. LA's offense is kind of meh, and I think Green Bay's offense has proven that they can put up points in bunches. And I don't see this game ever getting close. Maybe in garbage time, LA gets it to within a touchdown, but I'm not confident about this, especially when we're looking at overall records. Against the spread this year, Green Bay on the road is 3-0 against the spread. The Chargers at home are 0-3-1 against the spread. So doesn't bode well. Even though as we were just talking, they not necessarily considering this a home game for them based on the number of Green Bay fans that we're expecting. I just I don't know that the Chargers have enough to keep up with this Green Bay team in any in any phase of the game.
Well, I look at the common opponents in this spot, really, and you have, obviously, the Bears and the Lions, and the Chargers will play the Vikings later on in the year, but the Bears and the Lions, the Chargers had a close game against the Lions, probably should have beat them, made a couple mistakes at the end, beat the Bears on a obviously missed field goal last week, probably should have lost that game, but still played them close, and Green Bay had a tough time against both of those defenses, too. So I'm thinking somehow Anthony Lynn tries to take a page out of that playbook. The only other common opponent was the Broncos, which the Chargers lost to inexplicably by 7, and Green Bay handled pretty well at home, 27-14. It leads me to believe this game is going to be closer. I think the public really loves Green Bay. Actually, I'll leave it because we've already locked in the picks, but I just got refreshed on Vegas Insider, and Green Bay went up to 4 already. So. But we'll leave it. We'll leave it as it is because we both have already. Actually, I think everybody is on this pick right now because I would love the Chargers plus 4, obviously.
Let's see.
But the Chargers plus 4 and plus 3.5 are generally similar.
All of us are on this game. Even the dice are on this game.
So we'll just leave it as it is. So let's move to the Sunday night game. And what we would call New England's first real test of the year, Baltimore.
Yeah.
New England's a 3-point favorite on the road. The total is 44.5. I'm nervous for Tom Brady. Not specifically him, but I'm nervous for the Patriots.
I am too. I'm not super stoked about this game, although I am on it.
I am too.
The one... Lamar Jackson has looked great. Baltimore's been playing very well. They've been doing enough to win. We talked a little bit earlier about Lamar Jackson's hashtag not bad for a running back, but he has been actually looking pretty good in just about every phase of the game. The only thing that should concern Baltimore fans is the fact that New England's defense is playing unbelievably well. We know that Steve Belichick has been doing the play calling. If he gives up points early, then Bill Belichick can take over, and that's not what Baltimore wants. And Bill Belichick scheming against mobile quarterbacks If they can get to the outside, that's where they're problematic. But I think New England's safeties and corners this year are so fast that they're going to block the outside, which means Lamar Jackson has to run up the middle.
RPO will be a huge thing for them this year.
Yeah,
in this game.
But the flip side is the Baltimore's offense has called running plays out of the pistol formation this year more than all other NFL teams combined. So New England being able to game plan against a team that's, I don't want to call them one-dimensional, but that relies on that type of play so often, I think plays right into the strengths of New England's coaching staff and to their defensive scheming. So very interesting matchup. Obviously, I'm watching it not only as a New England fan. Even if I wasn't, I would love this matchup because I think this is going to be such a great game to watch, especially on a Sunday night in prime time. I'm very, very excited about this one.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a trend, obviously, Lamar Jackson is looking to bust up, and that's New England's 21 straight wins against first- or second-year quarterbacks. They've already played 4 first- or second-year quarterbacks this week. Actually, they've played the other 4 quarterbacks who were all drafted with Lamar Jackson in the first round. And obviously, they've beaten all of them. I think anytime the Patriots lose a game, and I know that this is not a testament to anybody that they play, but anytime they lose a game, it's because they've made mistakes. And basically, even though they beat Cleveland pretty handedly, I think there was a crack in the defense rushing. And I'm wondering if Mark Ingram, who's not a notorious fumbler, and not that Chubb was, but obviously the torrential downpour assisted that. I'm wondering if John Harbaugh takes a page out of Cleveland's playbook and utilizes a lot of RPO and running plays with Mark Ingram to try to keep the ball out of New England's hands. Because if they can run successfully, Cleveland ran for 171 yards last week in the rain. If they can run successfully against New England's defense, they not only do they hold the ball, they also keep the offense out of basically out of troubling situations. I mean, if you're averaging 4 yards a carry, you're never going to have a problem, creating first downs. You keep the ball out of Lamar Jackson's arm from him having to throw. You get down by 2 touchdowns, and Lamar Jackson has to throw. Yeah, they're fucked.
Yeah.
So I think in a spot like this, it's hard to go against 21 straight victories. So I'm going to say New England wins this game, but it's going to be close.
Yeah.
And we got kicking issues in New England.
Yeah, and that's
got a new kicker, Nick Folk, this week.
That's going to, I think, raise a lot of questions because how much time has he had to work with the long snapper and holder, and trying to get into that kind of a rhythm for somebody coming in fresh off the street is.
Well, he was signed, I think, Tuesday, so I would imagine they're just peppering the reps.
Oh, I'm sure they've been working him hard, but it's still on the road for his first game.
And if it comes down to him having to be a factor here.
Yeah, it looks like weather shouldn't be a factor in this one, so that should help the kicking game for New England. But yeah, you're right. This is definitely going to be a ground and pound type game from Baltimore. I think at least in the first half, and then we'll see what kind of adjustments are made.
Yeah, and speaking of New England, we didn't talk about it earlier when we were talking about Seattle, but Josh Gordon is now a new member of the Seattle Seahawks.
Yes.
What? Give me his stat line in this game. Is he playing?
I don't know. I mean, he just became a member of the Seahawks. Yesterday?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that they're going to put him out there for anything other than a decoy, because there's no way he's going to learn.
I mean, Seattle's if he is any kind of decent, they just went from an average receiving core. I mean, DK Metcalf, Josh Gordon, and Tyler Lockett.
Yeah,
that's actually pretty dangerous.
That's rough. And then they're still 2 games behind San Francisco in that division, but this definitely has to put them up there, especially because they've got. Actually, they haven't played San Francisco yet.
No, they got 2. They got next Monday night against them too.
Yeah. So.
Actually, thinking about going, they got plane tickets out there for like $58. Curious what the actual tickets to the game, and I haven't been to an NFL game in a long time. Actually, for reasons of. I just didn't want to give the NFL the ability to sell tickets for $500, to me.
That's.
But
fair.
if I can find decent tickets to that game, I may take a day off of work and run over to there. I don't know why. I'm not, of all the games to be interested in going to, that one just seems to be an interesting one to me, especially if the Seahawks are 7-2 and the 49ers are 8-0.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about the 49ers is that in last week's game against Carolina at the Levi Stadium or whatever it's called there, it was only the second game in the history of that stadium where both teams had a record above 500.
Well, San Francisco was bad
They were terrible
ever since they entered the stadium.
Yeah, so a little nugget there, but this game will be number 3, and that should be a fun one. I agree with you. It's actually a good one, and I know that, based on your job, you don't necessarily get holidays off, but that Monday is Veterans Day, so it would be a day off for, most normal people in this world.
Yeah, but I'm not normal.
I know.
I do have a play, like I said, in the Baltimore-New England game, and I will preface this by saying this may have influenced my play a little differently, but unfortunately, Baltimore's money line is only 142 at the Westgate. So not enough for the goods.
Yep.
All right, back to what is the Monday night game.
Yep.
Dallas is going to the Meadowlands to take on the Giants. And Danny Dimes, they are a 7-point dog at home with a 48 total. Actually, the total's off at the Westgate, but we're going to run it as 48. I don't know if anybody has a total pick in this one.
I will double check. I don't believe so.
Does anybody even have a play in this game?
Yeah, the Dice and Real Token both have a play on this one.
Got it. All right, well, let's chat about this one. Dallas is coming off a bye. Mari Cooper's getting healthy. Everything, all signs point to Dallas should really cakewalk, but the last time they were at MetLife Stadium, they lost to the Jets. Not saying that that's relevant to the Giants, but the fact of the matter is this is a division game on the road, coming off a bye. I don't think Dallas should have a problem.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they should. I think Dallas. The one thing that it has to be concerning for Dallas fans is the fact that the defense, they're not necessarily giving up points, but they're giving up tons of yards per game. I think they're like over 320 yards they're giving up per game. I don't know that the Giants can do enough with those yards in order to be able to put up points against Dallas when they're doing that, but I think Danny Dimes is going to, kind of hit his stat line and kind of go a little bit crazy here. I think the Dallas walking in this one wouldn't surprise me at all.
All right, fair enough. All right, it's time to get into the picks, and we'll break it down by each person's picks. We'll start with the Dice.
The Dice. So they're a little bit all over the place. Starting 2 games with the chalk. Chicago versus Philadelphia. They're running with Philadelphia minus the 4. I don't have Vegas Insider up, so if any of these lines have moved, I'm going to need you to tell me.
Nope, you're still good.
So yeah, they're running with the Eagles minus the 4, and in Indy versus Pittsburgh, they're agreeing with you, taking the Steelers minus the 1, going against the public money, which I just looked up. Indy's
1.5.
Indy's going to 62% of the tickets so far. So
yeah, Pittsburgh is now a 1.5 point favorite.
1.5. So that changed that. I don't know if anybody else has it. I'll look. Next 2 games are Tampa Bay and Seattle running with under 53. Cleveland and Denver going over 39. Next game is Green Bay versus the Clippers, running with the home dog Clippers plus the 3.5. And the next 2 are dog money lines. First, Detroit and Oakland, taking Detroit, not enough for a bonus point at plus 130, but they running with the dogs there. And then Dallas and the Giants, taking the Giants money line at plus 260.
Yowzers.
Going for at least 2 bonus points. No, because I think it's going to be over 300 to get the 3rd bonus.
Okay. I thought one. Well, actually, no, it might be 3 because I thought 150 was 1. Oh yeah, it's probably 2. 150 to 220 is 1. I think 220 to 300 is 2.
Yeah, I think that's where it fell. So they're still getting the 2 bonus.
So they'll get a total
of
3 points.
Yeah.
No, they'll get a total of 3 points.
They would get 3 points in this game if the Giants win, which is why we should all be Dallas fans this week.
Yeah, I'm a big Dallas fan this week, just regardless, because I've already locked them in on a season win bet. So.
Excellent. No, there you go.
All right, so fake token, Florida fake.
Fake token. So with Tennessee and Carolina, he has 3 plays on this game, all over the Titans. Starting with the Titans plus the 3.5. Also taking the Titans money line at plus 160. And then with the total, he wants under the 42. Then with the Jets and the Dolphins, 2 plays on this one, taking a miracle Miami money line, plus 155, going for that extra point, and going under the total of 42.5. Green Bay and the Chargers, he's with the Chargers money line at plus 155. And finally, New England and Baltimore sitting at under 44.5. For Real Token, who's also not here, Tennessee and Carolina. He's on Carolina minus the 3.5. Apparently not scared off by the shellacking we all took with Carolina last week.
He just doubles down on it. That's what he does.
Washington and Buffalo, he's going under the total of 36.5. Green Bay and the Chargers, he's also on the Chargers plus the 3.5. Chicago and Philadelphia, he's running with the Bears plus the 4. Tampa Bay and Seattle over 53. New England and Baltimore, he's taking the chalk. New England minus the 3. And then Dallas and the Giants, he wants the Giants, but not money line. He's taking the touchdown plus the 7.
We are 6.5 now.
6.5. All right, move that one.
Yeah, that one just updated.
All right, easy enough. You want to do your own picks?
Yeah, I'll do my own picks for the 7 game here. I have for Washington and Buffalo, I'm taking the biggest dog of the week, and that's Washington plus 10.5.
You do love those double-digit dogs on the road.
They tend to cover more often than not. The only caveat I have with that is I'm praying that Colt McCoy is the starter and not Dwayne Haskins in that spot. Dwayne Haskins is the spot. I don't love it as much, but I'm locked in. So I too am with Fake Token in the Miami Miracle. I think Miami gets their first win, and now that you've said it, I also hope that the New York Jets are officially eliminated from AFC East contention with the Miami money line at plus 155 for the extra bonus point. That was it for me on the early slate. I went to the late slate, and I have play on Detroit and Oakland under the total of 50.5. I think that game's going to stay somewhere in the 20s for both teams, low 20s for both teams, somewhere like 24-23, something like that. Seattle and Tampa Bay, I am also with Real Token in that spot at over 53. Cleveland, again, this is the show me game. I think they win this game by double digits, so I will take them at minus 4.5. Even though I don't love them throughout the rest of the year. Chargers, I am also on. I think that's almost a consensus pick, right? Except for I think we'll find out about your pick.
You're right.
The Chargers, I am on at 3.5. It moved to 4, but because we're all on it, and you're on the other side, I'll just spoiler alert. We'll allow it to stand. And then I am on Baltimore. I was going to be on the money line simply because it almost got close enough, but it was not at 142. So I will take the 3 points in that spot.
All right. And, with my picks, Indy and Pittsburgh, I don't think it was a surprise that I'm going with Indy plus the 1.5. I think
you are the Vegas square.
I think the wrong team's favored in this spot. And I would
agree.
I think this is just a chance to move the tickets to the other side. Chicago and Philadelphia, I'm going with Philly minus the 4. I'm not super comfortable with it. I just think, with Philadelphia is the better team, and I think their defense is or has been good enough, especially with what's his name there, Trubisky just making all sorts of mistakes. I think Philadelphia can roll on that one. Detroit and Oakland, I vowed I would never take Detroit again, but Detroit getting 3 points I think is just too juicy for me to pass up, so I'm taking the plus 3 with Detroit in that. Green Bay and the Chargers, you're right, I'm taking Green Bay minus 3. I'd take them minus 6.5 at this point. I think they win by a touchdown or more. Washington and Buffalo, I don't know why, but I think with Colt McCoy, I think he's going to be good for probably 2 touchdowns, maybe 17 points. So I'm going with the over 36.5 in this one. I think that line's just a little too low for my liking. Cleveland and Denver, I think the exact opposite. I'm not sure Denver puts up anything in this game. And I think Baker Mayfield, he's too prone to mistakes for my liking. So I think a 21-0, maybe a 24-3 type game. So I'm rolling with the under 39. And then New England and Baltimore, I'm too much of a homer, but I think the line's a little too low. New England minus the 3. I actually think this game's going to push. I think it'll be New England wins it by a field goal, so not super happy about it. I did parlay it with the under on a real ticket, so at least that's out there. But,
you see this game like, what, 17-14 kind of
yeah, thing? Maybe 24-21 type, and it just kind of...
That would push it over.
I think I got it at 45 before I went to 44 and a half.
All right, cool. So let's wrap it up here. You got any bold predictions you want to make?
Bold prediction that, let's see. I will say, I don't know. I think I don't know. I thought I had something with quarterbacks getting changed out, but I think that's a little not bold enough for this. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, all right. I'll say Jameis Winston throws 4 touchdowns and 4 picks in the losing effort.
That'd be good for me. I will say that a running back will run for 200-plus yards this week.
Oh, all right.
Start to get cold. We start to run the football a little bit more. Weather becomes somewhat of a factor. I think we get a 200-yard rusher.
All right, I like that.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for Spike, and I am Aaron. We appreciate you listening in. Let's thank the sponsors, 12-Ounce Sports Radio, obviously, first and foremost, and Seat Giant, where you can use promo code 12-Ounce Sports Radio for all your discounts on your ticket needs. Once again, we appreciate you listening in. Also want to thank Fake Token and Real Token for sending in their picks. Good luck to Real Token and his never-ending quest for love. We'll catch you on the next episode.